And I remember looking over at him and I was like, just starstruck. And I couldn't stop staring at him. And he could see me staring at him. And he was like, "What's up, buddy? How's it going?" He fist bumped me. And then my dad is like, "Oh, hey, I see you got a red line shirt on. Do you race?" And he's like, "Oh, yes, sir, I do." And in my head, I'm like, "Dad, shut up. Shut up. He's literally the best racer." And he asked him a couple more questions. He's like, "Oh, that's cool. How'd you do today?" He's like, "Oh, I won. Got first. It was a tough day." And my dad's like, "Oh, that's awesome. You're gonna be racing tomorrow?" He's like, "Yeah, we got one more day of racing." Um, How'd you do today, bud? And I didn't do good that day. I was like, I didn't make it out of motos or didn't make it out of semis. I had only been racing for a few months at this time. And he's like, "Oh, we'll get it tomorrow. Ride aggressive."
BMX Breakthrough is bridging the gap from old school to new school, from tracks to manufacturers, from new riders to their local tracks, and it doesn't stop at racing, but the mission is to connect people with bikes. Join me, Jay Oaks, as I interview key people in the sport and in the industry that are involved in their local circles, in their communities, at their local tracks, and aiming to make a difference on a local level. You'll hear stories, marketing tips, failures, successes, and a way to make a difference in your local BMX community. Let's dive in as we kick off this next episode. Cam Moore, it is so excited to see you. I'm excited to be able to talk to you. I've been looking forward to this since we met back in Tulsa at the Legacy Nationals. And we'll start by diving in. I want to know who you are and what do you do?
So, my name's Cam, obviously. I'm 25 and I've been racing BMX since I was 8 years old. Well, seven, almost eight. Before that, I raced motocross. Um, Ended up having some really bad injuries. So my mom was like, "Nope, we're not doing this anymore." And my mom and dad found the closest thing to motocross, and that was bicycle motocross. So I've been doing that ever since. I raced professionally and I turned pro in 2017 and have been doing that ever since. And then besides racing, I also coach. And I do that weekly at my local tracks, which are Capital City BMX in Raleigh and Burlington BMX in Burlington, North Carolina.
Right on. That's
Yeah.
sweet. Okay,
Thanks.
so you got into BMX racing as a result of, I mean, the way that BMX racing really started was that everybody wanted to race motorcycles, and usually it was like an affordability thing. If you look back at the old school guys, they were like, we wanted to be like motocross guys.
Yep.
Um, and in your case, you had the opportunity to do that, and as everybody knows, with motorcycles, there's a whole lot more risk of injury, which obviously struck you at a really young age.
Yeah.
Um, so what was it that, like, when you moved over to BMX, what was it that like got your attention and I guess kept you in the sport?
So when I raced motocross, I grew up in a neighborhood where we had homeowners association and we couldn't ride our dirt bikes in the neighborhood. So whenever I got home from school, I was a very hyperactive kid. I have ADHD really bad. So I needed somewhere to put all this energy. So as soon as I got home from school, I wasn't like a video game kid that stayed inside. I went outside immediately and was playing with my friends the whole time when I could. And we would always ride bikes. And I had little 1080 ramps. They're little plastic ramps that you get from Dick's Sporting Goods. And when I wasn't riding motocross, I was doing that every single day. So I was already addicted to riding bikes and I loved it from when I was like 2 years old. So then whenever I started racing, it was so similar to motocross. And I just loved the competitiveness of it because I'm a very competitive person. Um, and I just always strive for competition. And I loved how similar the competition was in BMX as it was with motocross. So I don't know. I've always loved two wheels. I've loved bikes, and I love the people that are associated with the sport. and I ended up being decent enough to be able to make a career out of it, at least short term. So I just love it.
That's cool. That's pretty awesome. How far did you grow up from your local track?
So I grew up in Chapel Hill, and my two locals were Burlington and Capital City, which is in Raleigh,
Okay.
and that's about 45 minutes, give or take, for both of those tracks. So not too far, but not super close.
Yeah. Definitely a bit of a track and a bit of an investment for your parents. Like, I mean, just time
So
wise to get you to the
absolutely.
track. Yeah. Cause that makes, I mean, that makes each race, nearly a 4 hour endeavor, at a minimum. So
Yep. Yeah. And starting out, there was no sponsors, and BMX bikes are not cheap. And my dad and my mom always like gave me, anything I wanted. I loved them to death, and they were amazing, or they are amazing parents. So my dad didn't go and just buy like a crappy bike. Like he went out and bought a top of the line bike, nice clips and all this stuff. Even when we didn't have all the money, he was still doing that and giving me everything I needed. So yeah, it's been a lot of money put into this sport, but it's worth it because I love it, and the memories that I've made with my dad and my mom and all my friends that I've made from racing, you can't take that away, and it's just awesome.
that's cool. That's what I appreciate. I think the most about the sport is like the memories, the connections, some of the pieces that like fall into place or come full circle, or even getting to when I had the conversation with Donnie Robinson of being able to show him my clinic jersey from when he came out to one of our local area tracks and put on a clinic,
Mm-hmm.
back when I was like, they would have been 10 years old. And it's just cool. Like they're cool memories, and being able to like build those connections now, you know, 22 years later is super cool.
Yeah, and
So
it's awesome because like BMX gives you so many lessons that no other sport can give you. Like it's one sport that's just everything is reliant on you and your ability and how hard you work. You don't have to rely on anybody else and how good your team is. When you get in the gate, it's you by yourself. In that lap, it's just nobody's with you. And I just think it's super good for mental growth and just growth as a person in comparison to a lot of other sports.
yeah. On that note, then what are the kinds of things that it taught you that you can attribute, the things that you do now? What are the lessons that you were able to pull from BMX as a whole that you contribute to your life now, or would attribute to who you've become?
That's a good question. I would say one of the first, and not all of this is going to be positive too. It's kind of like there's always some stuff that are like harsh realities that you learn. One of the first things that I learned, and this is when I first started like winning and becoming successful in BMX, is not everybody really wants you to succeed, and it's kind of sad. And I wondered like why my circles changed whenever I was winning in comparison to when I was struggling. um, and I took that with me, going forward, to always make sure that my circle is tight and my friends are not like friends, they're like family. That's one thing. And then one positive, I would say, is the working hard aspect of things. In life, I just feel like you get what you put into it. And BMX is a direct correlation of that. Like getting your gait good, you have to put in the reps, you have to put in the time. You can't just get in the gate and be good. There's obviously really talented individuals that can do stuff like that, but for the most part, what you put into it is how fast you're going to get, and your endurance, all that stuff, your skills. And I just feel like in your career, in anything in life that you want to succeed at or be good at, or relationships in your life, you get what you give. So
That's cool.
mm,
Yeah, that's good. I want to go back to the one that you talked about kind of as a negative, and you were talking about the fact that not everybody wants you to succeed. Your circle has changed. Can you elaborate a little bit on that and how you saw that kind of play out?
So, whenever I came over from motocross, I was a good motocross rider. I was a national rider. And I mean, for my age, obviously, I was still really young. So it's different than being like, 15, 16, 17. Because then, like, it changes. It's a totally different sport. You're on 50s and 65s at that point. But
Yeah.
I was good and I was fearless, which is one of the reasons why I had to quit because I always broke myself off. I jumped things that weren't meant to be jumped on a 50 or a 65 and break my arm or break my wrist. I broke my femurs. That was actually why my mom was like, yeah, we're done. Um, so what I was getting to is the move over to BMX was pretty seamless. The only differences were you had to actually work for your speed, you had to pump, you had to pedal, you couldn't just twist the throttle, and you had to manual. Um, so when I came over, I was already really good at jumping. That was what I was best at in motocross. So I would hit the BMX track like I was on a dirt bike. So I would pedal as hard as I could, rail each corner, and jump everything. Like my line through a rhythm section was no pumping, no manualing. I would just double all the way through. Um, so at that age, with kids not really leaning on jumping that much, that gave me an advantage. So my second year racing was already, well, I had been racing for like a year and a half. I was already fighting for a NAG1 title, was NAG1 on both bikes going into Grands, was sitting National 1 on Cruiser. And whenever I first started, I really struggled because I couldn't really clip in. At the Nationals, they run the gate super fast, right? So when you get into the gate, you got to be dialed in and clip in really quick, and the cadence is already going. So a lot of my races, I would get motoed or semi'd because I wasn't even clipped in when the gate was dropping.
Oh,
But
wow.
I'd catch back up and, whatever. So I struggled at that point. But once I got my gate dialed in and everything else dialed in, I started to win. I started beating people that were really good and that were my friends. And then the parents would stop talking to my dad. And the kid, his vibe completely changed towards me. And like when he beat me, I was like, I've always been the person that's nice to my competitors. Like, yeah, I can be ruthless and just, be in my head and be in my zone. But when we're off the track, we're both striving for the same goal. So I try and be friendly and respectful. But, I just saw so many people change up once I started to get better and better and started beating them. Um, and then so that following year, I got my first national title when I was 10 and got on my first factory team, which was Formula. Donnie was on that team actually at the time. It was
Oh, sweet.
me, Donnie, Sam Willoughby, Elise Willoughby, um, Lee Lewis, Anthony Baccardo, um, and a few other like really good riders. It was a really good team. But whenever I got that, I saw even more people switching up, and they just had this preconceived notion that I was arrogant or I just thought I was better than everybody else. And um, it taught me to be like overly humble and try not to not talk about myself because I always felt like people were judging me and just putting me in um, a different headspace than everyone else. So it was more so just whenever you get that success, people get jealous, and you really find out who your true friends are. The people that
Yeah.
are there when you're down and you're struggling, and then also praise you when you are doing successful are family. And I've always kept those types of people around, and those are lifelong friends, and even friends that I've met recently within the past 2 or 3 years that I know are like that. They're still my brothers or sisters, and I will always, ride or die for them. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, it's just I've just seen so many people switch up, or people. This is a good example. I've had numerous really bad injuries in the sport. When I was 16, I had my shoulder and ankle reconstructed, broke my wrist like 3 or 4 times, popped both lungs. I've almost punctured every organ besides my heart, obviously, because you'd be dead.
Wow.
Broke my hips twice, and the comeback from that is really tough. So before I had my shoulder and ankle reconstructed, I was NAG one from the previous year. I was sitting NAG one, was doing really good that season. Then when I crashed, my first race back was Grands, and I ended up riding really scared. I had the speed to make the main and potentially win or podium, but I was just really scared to crash and get hurt again, and I was still sore. Um, and people just came out of the woodworks. It's like as soon as I crossed the finish line and I was upset I didn't make it, people that hadn't talked to me in years would be like, "Oh man, what happened? You okay?"
Oh,
Yeah, and
wow.
I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm good, thanks." And I saw so many people come up to me at that point. Way more people came up to me in a point of me being upset and me being down and on the ground than whenever I was winning and whenever I was holding up that number one plate in my trophy from winning Grands the previous year. So I just always taught myself to beware of who's there when you're down and not when you're up.
Um,
Vice versa. People that always try and ride your coattails when you're successful and try and bring themselves up, but then when you're struggling, they don't try and pull you back up with them.
yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Like it brings up an interesting dynamic that um I remember a friend of mine when I stepped into my own business and everything, like he had built a successful company and he said, just remember it's lonely at the top. And so, and it's pretty true. Like whether you talk to like high level athletes, whether you talk to successful entrepreneurs, whether you talk to, different people in different areas of life, it's really interesting because people start to see you as like, oh, well, Cam doesn't need my support. He's got lots of people around him. Or, people start to see, and it doesn't even matter if you're like at the top or if you're just like moving towards the top. It's
Right.
like, oh, well, he's probably got lots of friends. Oh, that person has a lot of, great financial success. So they're probably fine. They probably have lots of friends. They probably have lots of people around them. And a lot of the times those people are the most lonely.
Yeah.
And it's obviously not a blanket statement, but a lot of times it's true. And so, in that way, I wonder if it's just that dynamic of people being like, oh, cool. He's not, not on the top. I'll check in with him. Maybe he needs my support now.
Yeah, it's funny how people always judge and have a preconceived notion of how somebody is and how they live their life when they don't know them and they just see something on the outside.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's taught me a lot to not judge a book by its cover and really get an idea of who a person is when I actually have a conversation with them and spend some time with them.
That's cool. Well, and I appreciated that a lot when you and I met this last year at Legacy Nationals, and we had a conversation, and it was super cool getting to talk to you and having a conversation with you and Kevin at the same time, but being able to communicate. And there are a lot of people that you meet, and it's not industry specific; it's anywhere where there are people that are looking out for the better conversation. Right. And I remember talking to somebody about this 10 years ago, a mentor of mine, and he was talking about like somebody meets you, they like shake your hand, but they're like always looking around, like who else is out there? Who can I, when do I need to cut this conversation off? Cause that person's more interesting. And it was really cool to have a conversation with you because it felt like it was just you and me having that conversation. And I mean, that's, to credit of you, like the way that you engage in that conversation, you weren't worried about all the other people walking around, and not that not that our conversation was like the most interesting, but you were very attentive to that. And now it makes all the more sense.
Yeah, for sure. And I appreciate you, having that conversation with me. It was a good talk. We had some good stuff to talk about, some drama too. So yeah, it was
Yeah.
good, man. Good.
And then I wanted to talk about and make mention of, it's interesting, your experience growing up and racing BMX and having that division of really friendships or people that you were racing against. And I think it's different kind of depending on almost the level of let's say maybe the level of competition that maybe parents drive into it sometimes. Because I had a different experience growing up where I was competitive. There were 3 of us that traveled around to all the races that we were going to. And one of my favorite things to look back on and reminisce on was the same guys that were on my gate that we were going back and forth, taking turns, beating each other and making each other faster. Those were the same people that I would have called my best friends at the time. And we were all super close, which is it's a really unique dynamic in the sport of BMX where you can be best friends with your competitors. And then I just had this experience probably 3 months ago as I was at one of our local tracks and I was racing with this guy and I was trying to get closer to him, but I was still like probably a whole bike length away from him. And I had raced him 2 or 3 times and we got done. And he's like, well done, man. And he's been racing quite a bit. He's been racing quite a bit for the last, 10, 12 years. And I was like, I'm trying to get there. I can't quite close that gap though. And he goes, I can see you and you're getting so much closer. And I'm really excited for you to get closer. And there aren't a lot of sports where your competition is excited for you to get better so that you can make it harder for them to win.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's the same type of thing whenever you have a good training group. You always want to push your training partners. Who is your competition on the track? That's how elites train, is they train with other elites that are really fast. And whenever your training partner gets faster, you in turn get faster because you're pushing each other. And it's a really cool dynamic in this sport. I love it for sure. It's rare that you have a sport where you actually want your competition to get faster.
Yeah,
And
it's true.
Yeah. Some people are not like that, but for I think the most part, everybody in this sport is pretty good. They have a good head on their shoulders and they're pretty humble. And I actually want their comrades and their friends to succeed and get faster. So it's cool.
That's awesome. Is there one name that comes to mind of somebody that is like your favorite person to race or like the person that pushes you to train harder?
That's a tough one. I would say, hear my cat in the background. I would say Andre LaCroix. He's my brother, one of my best friends. When I moved to Florida for a few years, I moved back in 2017 when I turned pro. Him and I trained together every day, and we had that brotherly love and brotherly competition. So every time we went to the track, we were always at each other's necks. But as soon as we would leave the track, we were going and getting coffee and getting food and Chipotle together and just, being brothers. Another one of my friends that's like that is oh yeah, there we go. It's Anthony Picardo, Shibby. Every time he comes and stays with me or I go stay with him in Cali, it's always such a fun time. And when we're riding together, it's so competitive and you can tell he doesn't really talk much. He doesn't talk crap, but you can tell if you like pull it out in the first straight, he's like, okay, yeah, my gate needs to be better. My gate needs to be better. I got to get the first one better. And then I'm kind of the same way too. I just I get quiet and I'm like, oh God. All right, come on. But as soon as we get off the track, it's the same type of vibe. He's like my brother. So I would say those two. Yeah.
That's rad. I appreciate that. And then one of the things, so, talking about getting better, the big conversation that we ended up having was in Tulsa was about clinics. And I love the way that you value clinics and put an emphasis on that. And you were talking about a clinic that you and Kevin had led just days before Legacy Nationals, and the value to help out and contribute to that next generation of riders. And can you talk about like what it looks like for you? Because and at that clinic specifically, it was raining. You only had a few students that ended up coming out to that, but you just talked about enjoying it so much. And so what is it that makes it so exciting and so rewarding for you to do something like that?
I would say, my first thought, whenever I see a little kid that wants to get better and looks up to me as a individual and a pro, as I see myself when I was that age. And I remember certain times where I would see my favorite pro, or a pro that wasn't even my favorite, but he was just a pro, and how it like made me feel. And I remember that feeling to this day. And I'll take that with me till the day I die. Like, I remember my first time really being starstruck by a pro. And I hadn't been racing for that long. And it was, I think, my second national ever. And it was Dixieland. It was Cobb County BMX. And at the time, Bubba Harris was at the top of the sport. And that was when he was on Redline. He was just a monster. So good. And he had just won this day. It was Saturday night, I think. Yeah, Saturday night. Me and my dad were getting on the elevator to go down and get Cracker Barrel, which was our post race and pre race routine meal. And he gets on the elevator with us. Bubba does. And I remember looking over at him, and I was like, just starstruck, and I couldn't stop staring at him, and he could see me staring at him, and he was like, "What's up, buddy? How's it going?" He fist bumped me. And then my dad is like, "Oh, hey, I see you got a Redline shirt on. Do you race?" And he's like, "Oh, yes, sir, I do." And in my head, I'm like, "Dad, shut up. Shut up. He is literally the best racer." And he asked him a couple more questions. He's like, "Oh, that's cool. How'd you do today?" He's like, "Oh, I won. Got first. It was a tough day." And my dad's like, "Oh, that's awesome. You're gonna be racing tomorrow?" He's like, "Yeah, we got one more day of racing." Um, how'd you do today, bud? And I didn't do good that day. I was like, I didn't make it out of motos, or didn't make it out of semis. I had only been racing for a few months at this time. And he's like, "Oh, we'll get it tomorrow. Ride aggressive. Da da da. Maybe I'll see you guys out there." And I was just so locked in on like nothing that he said, but just the fact that he was talking to me. So, and I was just like, no way, this is crazy. And as soon as he left the elevator, I'm like, "Dad, that was Bubba Harris." And my dad like jogs up to him. He's like, "Oh, hey, I'm sorry, Bubba. I didn't know what you look like without your uniform on. You're a beast." And like shook his hand. He's like, "Oh, thank you, sir. I really appreciate it." And it was just that little conversation like changed my whole outlook on BMX, and it made me want to strive to be that one day, or be even a fraction of that, and be able to call myself a professional BMX racer, and to be able to talk to kids and have them have that same feeling, or give back to the next generation and give as much info and as much knowledge as I can to any kids that want to do something with this sport, or want to chase their dreams. So I think it's a really rewarding feeling to know that these kids are getting that joy and getting such a positive feeling from just being there and being in my presence and being at the track with their friends, and all striving to get better and chase their dreams.
That's really cool. And it takes work. I mean, the reason that you get paid for clinics is you're sharing your knowledge, you're taking your time. But it's also, I mean, it requires effort. Teaching anything requires effort, and the person that teaches gets better by teaching. But at the same time, so there's benefit for you, but at the same time, it's not without work to put on a clinic. But I think there's the difference between like the teacher that's there for the sake of like, I'm a teacher, this is my job, and the person that really wants to contribute to that next level of riders. And I think that's really cool, and it's fun to see what you're
Yeah.
able to do.
Yeah, and it's really cool to see just how much better these kids are getting year after year. You know, the level of rider at like 8 years old is just crazy now. Like we got like 8 and 9 year olds jump, land in double manual to pull triple pedal manual like in the race. And it's awesome because I can't wait to see where the sport is at in, 10, 12 years and what that looks like, and just to be able to help these kids get to that and to try and ride like their favorite pro and see the smile on their face and see their parents even getting joy out of it and seeing their kids happy, and having them develop their character by doing BMX and listening and going to get coached it's a cool feeling. And I love kids as it is, so it's a pretty cool job. I'm definitely very blessed to be able to work with kids and get to ride a bike for a living. So I'm not taking it for granted for as long as I'm doing that.
That's cool. So you talked about coaching as well at your local tracks. So what does your regular coaching week look like?
So I usually do 2 to 3 days a week, and I do group training. So it's like mini clinics.
Okay.
So I do Monday and Thursdays, and we meet every week. Some riders do a subscription where it's one time a week where they'll come every Monday. And then the more serious riders come twice a week. So they'll come Monday and Thursday. And Monday is usually at Capital City, Thursday is usually at Burlington. And then we'll work. The clinic is supposed to be like an hour and a half, but we usually go over to like 2 hours and 15 minutes, just because I lose track of time and I'm not really looking at my watch whenever I'm coaching them. And if I feel like they're not tired and they want to keep riding and they're having a good time and the energy level is up, then that helps me continue to coach and continue to ride with them, and keeps my energy level up. So I always check the time after I think we're about to be done, and I'm like 30 or 45 minutes over, and I got my girlfriend like, "Hey, are you okay? Where are you at? You're supposed to be back at 7." But I just get caught up in it, and I really enjoy it. It's a cool feeling to come out there and gather a bunch of kids, and even adults hop in the clinics too. I have 4 or 5 adults that hop in with the kids and all train together.
That's cool.
And it's a cool dynamic, to see how kids can push adults and adults can push kids, vice versa, and how I can utilize the lessons of BMX and get such a broad spectrum of people that I can train at the same time. You know, it's pretty cool. It's an interesting vibe for sure.
That's really neat. What is one of the, I don't know, one or two of the most exciting breakthrough moments that you've seen some of your coaching or clinic students have?
So actually this year, one of my first students, he came to me when he was 5, and he's a little dude. He's a little bit undersized, string beanie built, very skinny, but so high energy, and he loves the sport more than anything. And all he wants to do is ride and ride and ride and just lap after lap after lap. And he just, everything he did was to get better, and he would just constantly push the envelope. And I remember telling his mom that he reminded me a lot of me when I was that age, because I was very high energy. I was a little skinny dude. I was undersized, and I just had no fear. And he was the same exact way, still is to this day. So we've been training continuously for the past 3 years, and he has never made he's never been to Worlds. This is his first year that he went to Worlds, and ended up getting sixth in the world, sixth in the finals. And yeah, it was awesome. His name's Parker Carlson. If any of the listeners want to check him out, Parker Chaos Carlson. He's a little beast. He's from Raleigh.
That's
And
super
that's my
cool.
yeah. So to be able to see that on TV, and to have his mom, gave me a call before, like the night before racing, and she was so nervous, and she knew he was nervous, and she was like, "Hey, do you think you could just send us a video of words of encouragement, to get him in the right mindset for tomorrow?" And I remember just telling him, just like I did every training session, to just ride aggressive. Don't worry about anybody around you. Race your own race, and you know what to do. And we're going to be rooting for you. Good luck. Love you, buddy. You got this. And that was all he needed to hear. And watching him race, like, it was just, he had no fear at all. It was so cool because a lot of, at the Worlds, it's like single elimination after motos. You got your three motos, you got to get an average of top four. Then you got 16ths, top four, eighths, top four, quarters, top four, semis. And every single elimination race, he wasn't out front. He was in like fifth or sixth coming out of the gate, and then he would just dive and make so many aggressive moves and would end up like winning or top two at the finish line. And he did that all the way to the main, and then ended up getting sixth in the world. And that was just such an awesome feeling to see him go up on that podium and hold up the sixth place trophy at his first world championships too. And it was crazy because my first ever worlds, I got sixth, just like him. So it was a very ironic thing. It was cool to see him just so proud of that, and see his hard work pay off, and just to be a part of that situation. He's the one doing the work, but just for me to be able to say that, I'm a part of it, is a blessing in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So what did, first question, how old did you say he is now?
He is 8.
Okay. So you've been working with him for 3 years then?
Yes.
That's awesome. What did you watch that do for like his, did it change his confidence or his demeanor as he's come back from that and continued working with you?
Yeah. Yeah, he's a confident little dude. Whenever whenever I'm not at the track and we're not doing a training session, he'll like grab all the local kids, and he's like, "Hey, everybody get over here. We're gonna train. I'm gonna take you guys through one of Cam's clinics." And his mom will constantly send me pictures and videos of them like doing squats and lunges, and all the local kids are like listening to him. And he's this little dude, and he's got like 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds that are listening to him. Yeah, he's definitely got some swagger to him. He's confident, but in this sport, you have to have that. You have to have a lot of confidence and believe in yourself, because as soon as you second guess, and as soon as you get in the gate and you're like, "Oh, these guys are so good, I don't know how I'm gonna do it," then you're manifesting that energy. You're manifesting not winning. And he gets in the gate every time and thinks he can win. And even if he doesn't, he still doesn't let that diminish his confidence. And that next lap, he's like, "Okay, I'm going to change this and I'm going to win." And I think that's definitely a great mindset for a champion. It's a champion mindset for sure.
That's really cool, man. It's fun to hear those stories. And like, one of the things that we've talked about quite a bit with in the other episodes that we've done is like, kids getting involved on a local level and being able to be a part of that community. And it's fun to hear those stories. And obviously not every kid wants to, or is going to, invest in the same way that he did, and is going to be able to go to the worlds or has the ability to do that. But it's fun being able to, for other kids that are coming in that maybe don't have access to or the ability right now to have you as a personal coach to be able to coach them along. But then these kids are being encouraged in the sport by Parker, like,
Mm.
and like being able to, have a mini cam clinic because he's so excited about what you're doing, and for him to encourage the other kids that are coming in from his, school district or from other sports and the area, and being able to help them out and encourage new riders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a cool little domino effect once you touch a kid and get him locked into the cause, then he's gonna spread it, and it's
Yeah,
a hell of a feeling for sure to see the kids actually, taking something away from what I'm doing. I love
that's
it.
amazing, man. That's fun. Um, no, I appreciate that. I love what you're doing, and I am grateful for your investment. And again, back to the conversation that I mentioned of like just being willing to go out in the rain, invest in those kids, and be able to spend time with them, because it's not like it's not comfortable just standing out there in the rain and coaching kids.
Yeah.
But it's cool to hear those stories. And it sounds like, you've been working with Kevin for quite a while now, and it's like he seems like he's just as excited about going out and doing those things as you are.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's funny. When we were out there at the clinic, he's gonna hate me for this, but uh, he's been away from BMX for a while, and whenever I was doing the clinic and like teaching him how to do gates, he just wants to be involved so much, and he wants to help, and um, yeah, I was like teaching him how to do a gate, and he started using like these funny like adjectives, like he's like, yeah, it's all about the pounce out of the gate. And I'm like, yeah, listen to Kevin. Like, it is like you're pouncing out of the gate, but we're gonna call it a snap. Uh, and yeah, it's just cool being around him. He's got great energy, great vibes. He knows how to make anybody smile, and he's just always positive. So it's really cool to work side by side with him and have him there at the clinics to talk to the kids, and he gives them free merch, and we play foot down at all the clinics at the end, and we give like free grips and stuff to the top three. And he doesn't have to do that. Like he doesn't have to give away free stuff, even if he doesn't have it. Like it could be his last three grips or last two hats. And a kid comes up and is like, hey, like, how much for the hat? And he's like, here, man, take it. And yeah, he's just got a good heart and a good head on his shoulders. So I love working with him.
That's neat. It's been fun to watch him bring life back into 09 and getting to, see where you've been able to go with the team and developing there. And yeah, that's been fun to watch. Because
Yeah.
how long have you been with 09 now?
This is my first year being
Okay.
on 09. So I signed with them back in December.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah. So that which is fun. It's been fun to watch, your like you getting involved with them and being able to work around and rep the brand and
Yeah. Yeah,
cool.
it's
So
cool. It's a great brand, and it's like a family. Everybody on the team gets along, and they're all competitive but humble at the same time. And it's a great environment, great vibes at every single race. If you need any help with anything, somebody's got you. Somebody's got your back, whether you need a tire or a crank set or even money. They're like, yo, here, I got you. Don't worry about it. You got a race. And they're like that with everybody around the pits. So it's cool. And this is their first year back, like first full year, full season, back as a team. And I think we're doing pretty good in the standings, for the first year back for a factory team. And we're picking up some really good riders, looking to make some changes. We just had a new plate come out. It's more of a modern style plate. Before this one, we were running the kind of big, like old school ones that wrapped around the bars.
Oh yeah.
Still really awesome. But Kevin's kind of going the modern route and having a little bit smaller, sleek plate. And it's I think it's the only plate that has like a crossbar pad. So if you, which a lot of pros do this, if you get too tucked, your handlebars will chin you, uppercut you. So it's like a little pad. So if that happens, you're not getting knocked out, splitting your chin open. And it looks really cool too. So he's
Awesome.
definitely making some changes and trying to make the best products he can to help grow the sport and help grow the brand.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think some the 09 plates, I absolutely love them. Like the way that he's done the mesh and incorporated the sponsors into the little like basically patches on the plate and everything has been really cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's different for sure. No other plates look like that. And the laser work is just so nice. It's like how he could come up with that idea, him and his brother. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. It definitely makes sense that he was in the fashion world because his creative side of his brain is firing at all times.
Yeah, it's true. Well, what would you say to somebody who's listening, who's looking at getting, maybe either new to the sport or looking to get kids into the sport or looking to like invite some local community kids into racing? What would be, what's something that you would say or encourage them with?
I would say, probably, I mean, the whole root of the sport is to have fun and to grow as an individual and for the camaraderie, at least for me. So if you got some friends that are, into that same thing, then I think it would be a great idea to bring them out to the track, get them a little rental bike, and 9 times out of 10, I feel like they're going to fall in love with the sport because you're having fun and you're getting a great workout at the same time. Great cardio, great intense workout. And you can set your own goals. Like I was saying earlier in our conversation, BMX is it's an individual sport. At the end of the day, you're in the gate by yourself, and what you put in, you get out of it. So if kids want to come out and just have fun and not be competitive, they can just ride the local practice and have fun with their friends and get some exercise in. Or if they want to take it to the next level, then you can show them the top level of the sport and like the experts in their age group and see like, hey, if you train and you do this, you can get a free bike and ride for this company. There's really no limits to the sport. And I feel like if you're trying to get somebody to come out, just show them how fun the sport is and all the aspects of life BMX can affect, which is, it's usually what I do. I always, I can tell like whenever I talk about it, it's really easy for me to like get somebody to feel how I feel about it because I'm very animated about the way I talk about it, or animated in the way I talk about it. And just with me saying how much I love it, it makes people curious. Like, okay, why does he love it so much? Like, he seems really happy, and that seems super cool. And if you can just let them know how you feel about it and encourage them to come out and just try it out, I think it'll stick for sure.
That's awesome. I think it's great insight because I mean, if you can communicate and articulate the culture and the community and help people to feel the excitement and the drive and the curiosity that you have, and that's really cool.
Yeah, and whenever I was growing up, I got to travel so much for nationals, which really no sports you get to do that. I mean, you can do that in AAU basketball or some travel teams and stuff, but you're not going out to California and Phoenix, Arizona, and doing it like once or twice a month. So I was come back from the race and like have my trophy or my saber stamps or whatever and have videos. And my friends would be like, "Oh, where were you? Da 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 da. You missed this on Friday," and then I'd show them the video, and it made them want to get into the sport and like, "Wow, that seems so cool. I want to get a bike." And we ended up having numerous birthday parties for some of my best friends out at Capital City, and to this day, they think it's so cool, and they came out and would ride all the time. So I think it's a sport really that sells itself. If you just really come and you get them to come and check it out, I think it'll stick for sure.
That's cool. And I did, and I want to come back to and point out one of the things that you said, like you can be not competitive in it. You can just come out to practice. And really one of our goals is to just ultimately get people on bikes, because the value of bikes, bikes are infinitely valuable in the life of a kid, development of a kid, or even the life of an adult. Like there are so many things that you can gain from just riding a bike and being outside and doing all that. So you can just come out to practice. You don't even have to have a race bike to do that. Or you can get into racing, and and again, you don't have to have a race bike. You can just ride the bike that you have, and just getting kids, even if it's involved in freestyle and just riding around town, there's a value to kids being on bikes. And then the opportunity to race is super cool. And some kids aren't super excited about that, but just being able to come out to the track and play around and ride for practice is super fun too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really a cool difference in BMX than another sport, it being an individual sport. Because when you go and play basketball, you have other people that might not have the same aspirations as you. So if you're super competitive and then you got a kid on your team that like doesn't put in any effort, doesn't practice, and then you're relying on him to, catch the ball and make his shot in the game, then it gets frustrating sometimes. Or if you don't want to be competitive and you're just coming to have fun with your friends, and then you got a kid on the team that wants to be the next LeBron James, So I think it's cool to be able to just come out and get out of the sport what you want to give. Just like you were saying, if you don't want to be competitive, you don't want to race, you just want to come out and ride and have fun, you can do that. Or you can get into racing and be competitive. You have a lot of options and a lot of leniency with the sport for sure. So I think that's really,
I think your description of team sports was almost me entirely. My advocating for bikes, whether it was mountain biking or park and trails or racing or whatever. It was like looking back at my time in team sports is like, one, I wasn't very good. So I always kind of felt like I was holding people back or not getting any playing time. But I was also competitive. And so I could go out there and have like a really good game, and the rest of the team, I didn't feel like they played as well as they did the previous week. And so then you're frustrated with them. Whereas, you come out of the gate and you didn't put in work this last week, and it's on you. There's no one to blame. And so it can be frustrating, or you can use that to train and go, okay, I'm going to get better, and I'm tired of not doing well, and I'm going to go out and make a change. And so I think there's a lot of value to that, and not being able to fall back on a team to like, they'll get me a trophy, but no one's going to get you a trophy unless you do it.
Exactly. And that's a good lesson for the kids that want to be good. Do your sprints.
Yeah.
Do your
That's true. Yeah. And then simultaneously, you learn how to lose really well. And you also have to learn how to win really well. Because doing either of those things well is quite the hurdle to get over when you're, getting into it. And, whether you get used to losing and you're okay with that, and then winning, you're like, yeah, and you're just making everybody else feel bad, or vice versa. There's so many lessons in the sport.
Yeah. Like all my coaches and my parents, every time I would lose, whenever I was younger, I had a tough time losing because like I'm so competitive, it's unbelievable. Especially when I was younger. I'm super competitive now. But when I was a kid, I just had such a hard time like holding that in, like that frustration and that anger. And it was just all over my face, and I'd be so upset. And then my parents, taught me like, listen, like you have to lose like a man, like you have to lose like a champion. Take it with grace. This isn't the end of the world. You have another race. All of your losses are really just lessons. You're not losing. You're going to race again. And all you can do is take away from it. Don't dwell on it and just move forward. And the same kind of thing with winning. Um, Even if it's your first time winning something really big, yeah, it's cool to be excited, but act like you've done it before. That's what my parents always told me, is just act like you've won before, and not that it's like the best thing in the world and make all these other people feel so bad. Um, I think it's really cool to like be stoked. Like if
Yeah.
I won the world and like came across the finish line, I would be, yeah. But that's the worlds, and I feel like everybody in the final at Worlds is going to be super excited. And
Yeah.
I think it's for a second, but not to just like keep doing it and keep boasting. And yeah, just learn how to lose with grace and win like a champion and win like you've done it before. I think that's
I like that.
yeah, I
I
think
like
that's a
that.
good kind of motto.
There,
But
yeah, because and I think there's even a difference between being able to win and being able to celebrate that and the side of making somebody else feel small because they didn't win. And so it's like you can celebrate. Yeah, you should be stoked on your achievement, your accomplishment, but not at the expense of making somebody else feel less. And
exactly.
like, I want to see the person that wins. I don't want to see them like down on themselves. I want to see them stoked, like you said.
Right.
But at the same time, I don't want to see them going over and telling somebody I win and you won and you lost. Because that would completely diminish it.
Yeah, yeah. I think there would be some
Yeah.
angry kids, angry parents. That's for sure.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you've got friendships left, you've got opportunities to spend time with other people, and you all get to push each other, and yeah, and it's
Yeah.
all for the mutual growth of the sport. So
And at the end of the day, we're riding bikes.
yeah,
It can be serious, but it's not that serious.
yeah,
At the end of the day, I feel like the root of the sport is to have fun and to push yourself. But it's not the end of the world if you don't win or if you don't make the main or. So I always like to remember that because a lot of times it does feel like it's the end of the world when you lose or something bad happens or you crash. But then time goes by and I look back and I'm like, damn, I got this. I'm okay. I've had 10 races since then, and I haven't thought about it one time.
yeah, exactly.
Mm,
That's
yeah,
cool.
it's caught up, but just always got to remember you just got to move forward. The more you dwell on something that was negative, the more negativity comes on in the future in your life. So it's good to stay with all the positive thinking, positive vibes.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right on. Well, Cam, thank you so much. I'm so appreciative of the opportunity to get to hang out and talk with you. And
Yeah, man.
my last question for you actually is, who do you know that I need to know and need to have on the show?
I would say my two brothers I was talking about earlier in the episode. I would say my buddy Andre LaCroix,
Right on.
uh, and then Shibby Anthony Picardo. I think they'll both have some great insight. They're great guys and have a really great future in the sport, and have both done some amazing things. Um, they got great heads on their shoulders, and I think it would be good to hear what they have to say.
Right on. Man, well, thank you for that. Thank you for your time, your investment into both your local community and into younger riders. And yeah, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us in today's episode. It is because of people like you and our sponsors who make this whole thing possible, because they have a desire to see the sport grow. If you would like to get involved in the mission of BMX Breakthrough, you can start by going to your local track, find a way to volunteer, help out, and serve there. Or you can go to our website, bmxbreakthrough.com, in order to donate, find out about sponsorship, or learn more.